Between 1993 and 2009, a woman dubbed the Phantom of Heilbronn had her DNA identified at 40 crime scenes across Europe. These crimes ranged from burglaries to outright murders. There was no connections found in the evidence from any of the crimes, and it seemed that the frequency and location of each crime was completely random. It was completely absurd that a lone woman was able to travel around Europe undetected for over a decade, with all of Interpol attempting to apprehend her, and yet it did. There were no witness accounts of her, and she didn't appear on a single piece of security footage during all of that time. This was such a concern for Interpol that they offered a reward of €300,000 to anyone who had any information regarding the elusive Phantom. In March 2009, the case took a different turn when the Phantom's DNA was detected on the paperwork of an asylum seeker. This raised many red flags, and it was soon concluded that there was no Phantom of Heilbronn. Instead, it was found that many of the cotton swabs used by the police on these cases all originated from the same cotton swab factory, where it's believed that a female factory worker had unknowingly contaminated all of the cotton swabs, causing an international search for a person who never existed. In Europe during the mid-1400s, the printing press was gaining huge popularity. It was the first time literary works could be mass-produced and viewed by many. These machines functioned by using individual metal letters which had to be manually set ready for typing. Because of the vast number of characters, fonts, and style variations which were available, it was inconceivable to have every character ready for printing at the same time. So often, letters were kept in wooden cases above the machines so that the operator could switch between the different letter variations by pulling the shift lever. Whilst not standard, it was common for capital letters to be stored in the case above the non-capital letters. It didn't take long for people to refer to these letter groups as uppercase and lowercase, a terminology which is still used to this very day. What separates humans from other animals? Well, I'm sure many things come to mind, but one less thought of example would be the concept of money. Humans possess the ability to organize and interact with large international currency systems to support our civilization, which is obviously something that no other animal could do, right? Well, maybe they can. A study conducted in 2005 by 2 researchers in Yale involved training 7 monkeys how to interact with currency. What's interesting is that the monkeys very quickly grasped the concept of money, since some of the monkeys would try to buy better food from the researchers after trying food of lower quality than they were used to. A few times during the experiment, the monkeys would attempt to steal tokens from one another, showcasing how greed and crime is not exclusive to humans. What wasn't expected, however, was that when some of the female monkeys ran out of money, they managed to make the male monkeys pay for sex, causing the first recorded incident of animal prostitution. Ever been called an idiot, imbecile, or moron? Chances are you can confidently say that you aren't. These words, casually thrown as insults, were once scientific labels for intelligence levels. Back in the 20th century, psychologist Alfred Binet created the first intelligence test in France, measuring cognitive abilities. When the test reached the US, psychologist Henry H. Goddard introduced the IQ, calculated by dividing mental age by chronological age and multiplying by 100. Here's the thing though, the American Association for the Study of the Feeble-Minded labeled the IQ ranges and decided to classify people with an IQ range of 0 to 25 as idiots, 26 to 50 as imbeciles, and 51 to 70 as morons. These clinical terms later turned into insults, prompting psychology to shift towards a more nuanced approach to intelligence. Interestingly, the derogatory term retard also has a similar history, as the word is just the technical term for slow. This was similarly once a medical term that took a negative turn in common language. So the next time that somebody uses these words, remember that they were once part of a scientific scale and demonstrate how language always evolves over time. As the Cold War intensified, securing nuclear weapons became a paramount concern. Sophisticated codes were implemented to prevent unauthorized access, ensuring a careful balance of power. However, The nature of this delicate equilibrium revealed a critical challenge. In the event of a potential nuclear strike, the United States had only minutes to decide whether to launch a retaliatory strike against the Soviet Union. The urgency of this situation was not lost on the Strategic Air Command, responsible for the nation's nuclear arsenal. Faced with the tight time frame for response, the Strategic Air Command grappled with the dilemma of whether they could execute a launch quickly enough. In an audacious move born out of this concern, they opted for a highly controversial solution, setting every single nuclear launch code to 8 zeros. It was also standard procedure to leave the case locks on 8 zeros, meaning that they weren't just easy to crack, they were unlocked the entire time. This seemingly reckless decision aimed to eliminate any potential delays in the face of a looming threat. Thankfully, as technology advanced and confidence in secure systems grew, this risky practice was abandoned. Nevertheless, it stands as a testament to the extreme measures taken during an era when the world teetered on the brink of nuclear conflict, and the fate of the human race relied on the security of an unlocked suitcase. As we all know, the Earth is currently the only planet which hosts living organisms, as all other planets in the solar system are completely inhospitable to any life forms which originate on Earth. But is this actually true? Well, no, it isn't. Now, wait for a moment. I'm not talking about some crazy conspiracy or late-night History Channel nonsense. No, I'm talking about the scientific fact that the Earth is not the only planet which is inhabited by living organisms. You see, as a species, we have sent countless probes and rovers into outer space. In fact, we have successfully landed crafts on the Moon, Mars, Venus, and Titan, Saturn's largest moon, just to name a few. These landers and rovers undergo an intense sterilization process to ensure that no microbes make it to these extraterrestrial bodies and pollute their surfaces. However, quite ironically, by making these crafts inhospitable to common Earth microbes, we unintentionally create the perfect conditions for bacteria which can survive the harsh environment of space. As such, it is almost certain that at least some of these microbes survived their trips and are currently on the surfaces of these other worlds. Whether they will survive to the extent needed to colonize these worlds is currently unknown. What is known is that for the first time in human history, we can conclusively say that the Earth is not the only planet with life. I'm sure somebody has told you at some point in your life that you are made of stardust. It's usually told as a fact to make you feel more valuable or connected with the universe. And whilst it's quite beautiful, it's also true. Whilst I've heard this a lot, I've always wondered exactly how much stardust I'm made of. Well, as it turns out, you can actually calculate this for yourself. If we take the most accepted theory of how the universe came to be, known as the Big Bang, to be fact, then we know that at the beginning of the universe, the first two elements to form were hydrogen and helium. As time went on, these elements grouped together due to gravity and created enormous structures which had very high masses. These structures were so heavy that the friction they generated created lots of light and heat which was released from their surface. This was how early stars were born. The high pressure in the core of these stars is where almost all the elements in the universe originated from, whilst the heavier elements like iron were formed during a star's explosive death, or supernova, meaning that any of these elements present in your body had to have originated from the cores and deaths of prehistoric stars. Knowing this, whilst body mass does not affect the final calculated value, if we assume a body mass of 70 kilograms, then there are approximately 7 octillion atoms in the human body. That's a 7 followed by 27 zeros. Since there is very little helium present in our bodies, we can subtract the total amount of hydrogen atoms present, giving us 2.3 octillion atoms which originated from within stars. By converting this number into a percentage of the total number of atoms in the human body, we can say that you are approximately 32.9% stardust. Why do you matter at all? No, but seriously, the universe is so massive and imposing compared to your tiny, short life. Your entire existence is confined to an insignificant rock far greater than yourself, drifting through an endless darkness which will continue with or without you. You are tiny. right? I'm sure you've experienced this kind of existential thought before. Lots of us have. It's true, the universe is vastly larger than yourself, and operates on a scale that we simply cannot perceive, so believing you're insignificant seems reasonable. On the other hand, it seems that some believe that they are important on the grand scheme of things. For centuries, many religions and scientific theories placed humans at the center of the universe, and many still believe today that we are the sole supervisors of the Earth, the cosmos, and everything that inhabits it. So, what is the correct way of thinking? Are we tiny and insignificant, or are we massively important? This is an almost impossible question to answer conclusively, but one method to approach this is by looking at the scale of the universe. Like I said, the universe is much larger than we are, but that doesn't do it justice. Comparing the size of the universe to us, we find that the universe is approximately 27 orders of magnitude larger than we are. So it seems we are insignificant after all. Until you consider that the smallest thing in the universe, the Planck length, is 35 orders of magnitude smaller than we are. That allows us to see that we are essentially in the middle. Given this information, to answer the question of importance, it appears that in terms of cosmological scale, you are completely average. You aren't important, nor are you unimportant. So the next time you're pondering your role or lack thereof in the progression of reality, just try and relax a little bit, okay?